Hi, guys. My name is Ann Madison. I'm the director of Peace Restored. And today on our podcast, I want to do a little different take. Typically, when you join us, you get to hear multiple voices and to be able to hear a conversation that we have together. But over the last couple of weeks, we've been sharing some information about loss and grief and even self care. And as we were preparing for those episodes, there were some things that I started thinking about personally that I really wanted to be able to share with you guys. And I wanted to be able to connect with each of you and share a little bit of my own journey of self care and even some things that I had to process through from a loss and grief standpoint. So, indulge me, if you will, as I share a little bit of my own story of my journey as I continue to heal through things that I've been through. So, the story that came up to me as I was thinking about the podcast that we've been doing on loss and grief and even self-care, as I said, was an experience that I had here recently. And sometimes there's things that happen that really take us by surprise. And this was one such thing. You see, the whole time that I've ran Peace Restored, I've had this green bottle that I've carried with me. And it really held a lot of significance and meaning to me. This bottle traveled with me from office space to office space. Sometimes it sat on my desk and sometimes it sat on a bookshelf. It always wasn't in clear sight, but it was always within my view. It was something that I always knew was there. Because you see, this bottle had a lot of memories, a lot of emotions tied to it. And I had forgotten just how deep those emotions had go for me. And one day I was in my office here in the last few weeks, and things suddenly changed for me when the bottle. I was moving some things around in my office, and this glass bottle that was sitting on top of a shelf suddenly came tumbling and shattered. It fell on the floor, and it really took me, it caught my breath. I stopped, and I didn't really know what to do. I wanted to grab it and make it stop. And I was frozen, and I just didn't know how to process through what was happening. And you might be thinking as you're listening to me talk, it's just a bottle. What's the big deal? But the big deal with this bottle is this bottle was created and was, well, not created, but it was designed during my time going to therapy in a really tough place. See, it was the time when I first started going to therapy to work through my sexual abuse that I'd been through as a kid. I remember whenever I looked at this bottle, the exact day that we made it, I can look at that bottle and I can remember. It takes me right back. A flood of emotions usually come in just as I'm sitting there talking about it. I can feel the emotions rising up in me. And I remember making the bottle. I remember the day I came in, and the therapist of the group, I was in a support group at the time, got out this paper and art supplies and says, "Today I want you to draw how you're feeling." And that day I felt really raw and angry. I didn't want to be there. I was tired of feeling all the heaviness of what was being felt. And I just wanted it to be over. And so I got out my piece of paper that I was told I needed to use, and I scribbled on this paper. And I was like, I did what you asked me to do. I'm done. Because if there's one thing I am a rule follower, and I do what I'm told. And so I did what I was told, even though I was pretty angry about it. So we put the paper aside until the next time when we were given the next step, which was to take the paper and to now tear it up, which I was okay with doing because I wasn't too excited about the paper I had made anyways, because quite honestly, it looked like a kindergartner had made it. But nonetheless, it's where I was. I was processing this pain I was in, this deep and dark hole. But the thing that began to happen is they had us tear up the paper, and then they had us glue it onto this bottle, kind of like decoupage, if you know what that is. And as we were putting it on the bottle, we were starting to make this piece of art. And at first I was really frustrated with the art that I was forming because my pictures were of this scribbled mess. It was my bitterness and my anger that was on the paper. And I wanted to almost hide what was there. But instead, I was encouraged in that space by the people in the room to say, it's okay to make what you're making. It's okay to be where you're at. You don't have to have it all together, and that's okay. And so I glued my papers onto the bottle and I left it until I came back for the next session. The next time I come back and they had put a nice little ribbon on it and did the best to decorate the bottle to make it prettier. And I remember they told us we could take it home. And at first I was like, I don't want this bottle with me. I didn't want that thing following me around. That what it represented at that time for me was pain, anger, bitterness, a lot of resentment, really hard places. And I didn't want to carry around that, at that time, what felt to be a weight. So I took it home. And for a while, it sat hidden. I didn't talk about it. Nobody knew what it was. I just put it away. And then as I started to walk through and started to process my own grief, my own loss, the loss of innocence I had, the loss of what didn't get to be, the loss of maybe some of my own identity during that time, I started to heal. I started to see that bottle in a new way. The bottle started to become a representation of what was. It became a representation of what could be. And I started to see it as a thing that represented the healing that I was coming through. Maybe you've been through a time where you've had some things that were really hard, a time where you just didn't quite know what was happening around you, where things felt really heavy. Well, that's what this time was for me. And this bottle reminded me of how God had got me through some really hard spaces, allowed me to heal through something really trying and really difficult, allowed me to become this new person that you see in front of you on the camera. Because I'm telling you, if you would have known me then, I'm not the same woman I am today. The bottle began to represent healing and hope, newness, just so many things. When I looked at that bottle, while I did still see the pain that was there, the pain that I'd healed through, I now also saw it with new eyes, with a fresh perspective. This bottle became this thing that connected my past with my present. And when it shattered, it kind of took my breath away because I didn't realize how much I was holding on to the things that the bottle represented. But when that bottle fell, it shattered. And it really, like glass just flew all over the office floor that it was on. Not only did glass shatter, but the interesting thing that happened is when the bottle fell apart, only the bottom was shattered and went everywhere. But when you looked inside of the bottle, it was also shattered as well. But it was held together amazingly by the paper and the glue. It was like this representation of this pain, all the stuff that I'd been through, and how God was like the glue almost, and it was holding it together. And you could see through the brokenness, this new life that had formed. And I just loved how I could now see this new picture of how God had taken me from a place of despair, a place of healing, and a place of hope. And now again, really a new type of brokenness, But this time it was good. And it was something that allowed me to heal a little bit deeper. A place where I could sit in that. And I just sat and journaled and really thought through, how does this affect me today? And what I learned is that while change can be hard, it is necessary to help us grow. While sometimes we want to hold on to things from our past, it is necessary to let them go. So that way we can grow and become the person that we have truly been designed to be. So if that's you today when you're listening to this, I'd encourage you to take some time and process through whatever it is that you're going through. Maybe it is to get out your journal and just write, just like I did, and just be able to release some of those hard things. To be able to trust that there is something better on the other side. And to press into whatever it is to come. Thank you for joining me today as I share a little bit of my heart, a little bit of my story of redemption and hope. I hope this was a blessing to you.